The War Council chamber on Kepler Station buzzed with tension. Representatives from 12 alien species sat around the massive holographic display, their various forms creating a bizarre collection of shapes and colors. The news had just arrived, and nobody could believe it. One ship, Admiral Zexar S. for Arms, gestured wildly as he spoke. His reptilian features twisted in disbelief. The humans are sending just one ship to face the Devourer fleet? Ambassador Yolana from the Ethereal Collective floated above her seat, her translucent form shimmering with anxiety. This makes no sense. We offered them 100 of our finest vessels. The Corvan Empire pledged their entire third fleet, even. The peaceful Botanians are sending their mobile force, and the humans, they send one ship? The display showed the approaching threat in stark detail. The Devourer fleet stretched across space like a black plague. 3,000 ships, each one the size of a city. They had consumed 17 star systems already, leaving nothing but empty void in their wake. Every living thing, every planet, every asteroid, all converted into raw materials for their endless hunger. Captain Thorne of the Regelian Navy leaned forward, his blue skin pale with worry. My scouts report the Devourer fleet will reach the Centauri system in 72 hours. That's where humanity's colonies are. 50 million human lives. He paused, his voice dropping. If they're only sending one ship, they must be planning to evacuate. Cowards, hissed General Kraft from the warrior clans, his massive form, covered in natural armor plating, radiated disgust. We should have known. Humans talk big, but when the real fight comes, they run. Ambassador Yolana's form flickered with indignation. That's not fair. Humans have fought beside us before. They've proven their courage. Against pirates and raiders, Kraft shot back, not against the Devourers. No one has ever survived a direct confrontation with them. The smart thing would be to evacuate. But they should have said so instead of pretending they'll fight, Admiral. Zexar brought up tactical displays with swift hand movements. Our combined fleet numbers 8,000 ships. Even with those odds, military analysts give us only a 40% chance of victory. And that's assuming we can coordinate 12 different species fighting styles. He looked around the table. Without the humans' industrial might and their famous tactical flexibility, our chances dropped to 20%. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what those numbers meant. The Devourers had never been stopped. They appeared from dark space, consumed everything in their path, and vanished back into the void. Some said they were ancient machines left over from a dead civilization. Others believed they were a biological weapon that had outlived its creators. No one knew for sure, because no one had ever lived to study them closely. Wait, said Dr. Veltari, the Corvan Empire's chief scientist. Her insect-like features twitched as she accessed her datapad. I'm receiving an update from our deep space sensors. The human ship, it's not heading for the Centauri colonies. All eyes turned to her. Where is it going? It's moving to intercept the Devourer fleet directly. And she paused, double-checking her readings. It's accelerating to 0.7 light speed. That's impossible. No ship can sustain that velocity without tearing apart. Ambassador Yolana's form brightened with hope. Maybe they're not running. Maybe they have a plan, or maybe they're committing suicide, Kraft growled. One ship against 3,000? It's madness. Admiral Zexar studied the tactical display with growing confusion. The ship's designation is UHSS Prometheus? I've never heard of it. It's not in any of our databases of human vessels. When did the humans build a ship we don't know about? Captain Thorne asked. Our intelligence networks are extensive. We track every major military construction project in known space. Dr. Veltari's compound eyes widened as more data flowed in. The sensor readings are strange. The ship appears to be roughly 2 kilometers long, but its mass readings are inconsistent. Sometimes it registers as heavy as a battle cruiser, other times as light as a scout ship, and the energy signatures. She trailed off, staring at her instruments. What about the energy signatures? Yolana pressed. They're unlike anything I've ever seen. It's as if the ship is shifting between different states of matter, or different dimensions. The chamber erupted in confused chatter. Interdimensional technology was theoretical at best. No species had ever successfully built a functioning device that could manipulate dimensional barriers. This is impossible, Kraft declared. The humans don't have technology that advanced. They barely achieved faster than light travel to centuries ago. Maybe. That's what they wanted us to think, Admiral Zexstar said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. Think about it. Humans are known for their deception in warfare. They've always been secretive about their military capabilities. What if they've been holding back? Holding back what? Captain Thorne asked. We've fought alongside them. We've seen their technology. It's impressive, but it's not miraculous. The technology they've shown us, Zexstar corrected. What if there's more? What if they've been developing something in secret? Dr. Veltari's instruments chime with new data. The Prometheus is slowing down. It's stopping directly in the path of the Devourer fleet. At current trajectory, the Devourers will reach it in 36 hours. It's a delaying action, Kraft said with grudging respect. They're buying time for an evacuation. One ship sacrificing itself so others can escape. It's honorable, if pointless. But Ambassador Yelena wasn't convinced. No, there's something else. Humans don't make grand gestures without purpose. They're planners, strategists. If they're putting one ship against 3,000, they believe it can make a difference. What could one ship possibly do? Captain Thorne asked as if in answer to his question, the holographic display suddenly changed. The sensor readings from the Prometheus were spiking wildly. Energy levels that should have been impossible were showing up on their instruments. By the Ancient Ones, Dr. Veltari whispered, the power output is increasing exponentially. It's already surpassed our largest dreadnoughts, and it's still climbing. The representative stared at the display in shock. The readings kept climbing, higher and higher, far beyond anything they had ever seen. The Prometheus was generating more power than some small stars. How is this possible? Admiral Zexstar demanded. What kind of reactor could produce that much energy? I don't know, Dr. Veltari admitted. But whatever it is, it's not conventional fusion or antimatter. The energy signature is completely unknown. We need to contact the humans, Yelena said urgently. We need to know what they're planning. Admiral Zexstar was already trying. Human Command. This is Admiral Zexstar of the Allied Defense Force. Please respond. We need to know the status of the Prometheus. Static filled the channel for several seconds. Then a calm human voice answered. Admiral, this is General Sarah Chen. Human Space Command. The Prometheus is proceeding according to plan. General Chen, Zexstar said, trying to keep his voice steady. Our sensors are showing impossible readings from your ship. What exactly is the Prometheus? There was a pause. Admiral, I'm afraid that information is classified, but I can tell you this. The Prometheus represents humanity's answer to the Devourer threat. We've been preparing for this day for longer than you might imagine. Preparing how? Kraft demanded, leaning toward the communication array. What aren't you telling? U.S. General Kraft, Chen's voice remained calm. What I can tell you is that the Prometheus is not just a ship. It's the culmination of humanity's most ambitious project. And in 36 hours, you'll understand why we only needed to send one. The channel went dead. The chamber erupted in confused voices. Everyone was talking at once, trying to make sense of what they had just heard. But Admiral Zexstar was studying the tactical display with growing unease. Look at this, he said, pointing to the Prometheus's position. It's not just sitting there waiting for the Devourers. It's doing something. The space surrounding it is changing. Dr. Veltari confirmed his observation. Gravitational anomalies are appearing in a sphere around the ship. It's as if the Prometheus is warping space itself. That's impossible, Captain Thorne said. Gravity manipulation requires massive amounts of energy and technology that doesn't exist. The energy is there, Veltari pointed out. Look at the power readings. The Prometheus is generating enough energy to power a small civilization. Ambassador Yelena's form pulsed with excitement. What if the humans haven't just been hiding advanced technology? What if they've made a breakthrough we can't even imagine? Or what if they've discovered something they shouldn't have? Kraft said darkly. Power like this, it's not natural. It's dangerous, as if responding to his words. The sensors detected something new. The Devourer fleet had noticed the Prometheus. The massive formation was adjusting course, 3,000 ships, converging on the lone human vessel. They're accelerating, Dr. Veltari reported. The Devourers are moving faster than we've ever seen them move. They want to reach the Prometheus quickly. They're afraid, Admiral Zexstar realized. The Devourers are actually afraid of one human ship. In all our encounters with them, they've never shown fear. They've never even shown emotion. They just consume and move on. But now they're acting like predators who've encountered something that might be able to fight back. Yulana finished. The realization sent chills through the chamber. The Devourers had consumed entire civilizations without showing any emotion at all. They treated every living thing as nothing more than raw material. But the Prometheus had made them change their behavior. What could possibly frighten creatures that had never known fear? We need to get closer, Admiral Zexstar decided. Our fleet needs to move to a position where we can observe the encounter. And he paused, looking around the chamber. We need to be ready to assist if necessary. Assist how? Krath asked. If the humans have some kind of super weapon, what can we do? I don't know, Zexstar admitted. But this is bigger than just humanity's colonies. If the Prometheus fails, the Devourers will continue their advance. They'll consume us all eventually. Whatever the humans are planning, it's our only hope. The representatives began making preparations to move their fleets. But as they worked, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to witness something that would change everything. The Prometheus was out there in the darkness, alone against impossible odds, preparing to face an enemy that had never been defeated. And somewhere in the back of their minds, a question kept nagging at them. What if the humans had been preparing for this moment not for years, but for decades? What if everything they thought they knew about humanity was about to be proven wrong? The countdown had begun. In 36 hours, they would have their answers. The only question was whether any of them would survive to understand what they saw. Chapter 2. The approach bridge of the Allied Defense Force flagship Concordia was a masterpiece of cooperative engineering, designed to accommodate the needs of 12 different species. It featured multiple atmospheric zones, adjustable gravity fields, and translation matrices that could handle everything, from the ethereal psychic emanations to the Botanians' chemical communications. Admiral Zexstar stood at the central command station, his forearms moving efficiently across the controls. As he coordinated the movements of 8,000 ships, the combined fleet was spreading out in a wide formation, maintaining what they hoped was a safe distance from the Prometheus, while still being able to observe the coming encounter. Admiral, reported Commander Yaxtel from the sensor station. The Prometheus has been stationary for 6 hours now, but the gravitational anomalies around it are intensifying. How intensifying? Zexstar asked, two of his arms continuing to work while the other to gesture for a detailed report. The ship appears to be sitting in the center of a gravitational lens. Space itself is curving around it in ways that shouldn't be possible. And the power output. Yaxtel paused, double-checking his readings. It's now equivalent to a small star. Captain Thorne, who had transferred to the Concordia to coordinate the multi-species fleet, whistled softly, a ship generating the power of a star. No wonder the Devourers are acting strangely. Speaking of which, Ambassador Yolanda said, her translucent form flickering with worry. The Devourer fleet is now 18 hours away from the Prometheus. They're maintaining maximum speed, but they've changed formation. General Krath, who had also joined the command crew, studied the tactical display with professional interest. They're not approaching in their usual consumption pattern. Normally, they spread out to engulf everything in their path. This time, they're concentrated into a spear formation. They're treating the Prometheus as a specific threat to be eliminated. Dr. Veltari looked up from her scientific instruments. I've been analyzing the energy patterns from the Prometheus. The signature is becoming clearer as we get closer. It's not just unknown technology, it's technology that seems to operate on principles we don't understand. What do you mean? Zexstar asked. The energy isn't just being generated. She explained. It's being drawn from somewhere else, as if the ship is connected to an external power source through some kind of conduit we can't detect. Connected to what? Thorne asked. I don't know, but the energy pattern suggested something enormous, much larger than any conventional reactor or power plant. Ambassador Yelana's form brightened with sudden understanding. What if it's not a conduit? What if it's a doorway? The bridge fell silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing, but no one wanted to say it out loud. Doorways led to other places, other dimensions, other realities. The humans wouldn't, Krath said finally. Even they wouldn't be reckless enough to open a portal to another dimension in the middle of a battle, wouldn't they? Yelana asked. Think about human history. They've always been willing to take insane risks when the stakes were high enough. They've bet everything on desperate gambles before, and somehow made them work. But this isn't just a gamble, Dr. Veltari pointed out. If they're manipulating dimensional barriers, they could tear a hole in reality itself. The consequences could be catastrophic, more catastrophic than letting the Devourers consume everything. Thorne asked quietly. No one had an answer for. The hours passed slowly. The Allied fleet maintained its position, watching and waiting. The Prometheus continued to sit motionless in space, surrounded by increasingly violent gravitational distortions. And the Devourer fleet continued its relentless approach. 3,000 ships moving in perfect formation toward their target, Admiral Yaxtel reported. I'm picking up something new. The Prometheus is communicating. With whom? Zexstar asked. That's the strange part. The signal isn't directed at the Devourers or at us. It's being broadcast into empty space. But the power levels are enormous. This signal could reach other galaxies. What's the message? It's encoded in a way I don't recognize. But the structure suggests it's not just a message. It's more like the summoning call. The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. A summoning call? What could the humans be trying to summon? How long until the Devourers reach the Prometheus? Zexstar asked. 14 hours, Yaxtel replied. In our fleet position, we're maintaining a safe distance. But we'll have a clear view of the encounter. All ships are ready to move in if needed. If needed for what? Krath asked grimly. What can we do against technology that operates on principles we don't understand? We can bear witness, Yelana said softly. Whatever happens, someone needs to survive to tell the story. The hours continued to crawl by. The Prometheus remained stationary, its energy output continuing to climb. The space around it was now so distorted that it was difficult to get accurate sensor readings. The ship seemed to exist in a bubble of altered reality. Admiral, Dr. Veltari called out suddenly. I'm detecting something. The Prometheus, it's not alone anymore. Everyone turned to look at her. What do you mean? There's another ship. No. Wait, multiple ships. They're appearing near the Prometheus, but they're not showing up on conventional sensors. I'm only detecting them through gravitational disturbances. How many ships? Zexstar demanded. I can't tell. The readings are inconsistent. Sometimes it looks like 3 or 4. Sometimes it looks like hundreds. And sometimes, she paused, staring at her instruments in disbelief. Sometimes it looks like thousands. That's impossible. Krath said. Where did they come from? There's nothing out there but empty space. Not empty space, Yelana said with growing excitement. Empty space in our dimension. But what if they're coming from somewhere else? You mean the humans have allies from another dimension? Thorne asked. Think about it, Yelana continued. Humans have always been explorers. They've always pushed boundaries. What if they didn't just discover interdimensional technology? What if they made contact with someone on the other side, or something? Krath added darkly. The tension on the bridge was becoming unbearable. Everyone was staring at the sensor displays, trying to make sense of readings that defied everything they knew about physics and reality. Admiral, Yaxtel reported, the Devourers are 10 hours away, but they're slowing down. They've detected the same anomalies we have. Are they changing course? No, they're still approaching, but more cautiously. They're spreading out again, surrounding the Prometheus at maximum range. They're afraid. Zexstar realized the Devourers are actually afraid. Can we contact the Prometheus? Thorne asked. I'll try. Zexstar opened a communication channel. UHSS Prometheus. This is Admiral Zexstar of the Allied Defense Force. Please respond. This time. The response came immediately, but it wasn't General Chen's voice. It was a new voice, younger, calmer, with an odd resonance that made it seem like it was coming from very far away. Admiral Zexstar. This is Captain Marcus Webb of the Prometheus. We appreciate your concern, but we need you to maintain your current distance. Captain Webb, Zexstar said carefully. Our sensors are detecting massive energy buildups around your position. Can you tell us what's happening? We're preparing for the final phase of Operation Doorway, Webb replied. In approximately 9 hours, we'll make contact with the Devourer fleet. When that happens, I need you to be ready to move your ships to a safe distance. How safe a distance? Krath interrupted. At least 50,000 kilometers, preferably more. The bridge crew stared at each other in shock. 50,000 kilometers was far enough to escape the blast radius of a supernova. Captain, Yelena said, what exactly are you planning to do? What we came here to do, Webb replied. What humanity has been preparing for since the day we first learned about the Devourers. We're going to show them that some prey fights back. Are you opening a portal to another dimension? Dr. Veltari asked directly. There was a pause. Doctor, I can't discuss operational details, but I can tell you that the Prometheus is not just a ship, it's a gateway. And what comes through the gateway is going to change everything. Change everything how? Zexstar pressed. Admiral, in 9 hours. You're going to understand why humanity has always been so confident about our place in the universe. We've never been alone. We've just been waiting for the right moment to introduce you to our friends. The channel went dead again. Friends? Kraft said in disbelief. What kind of friends could possibly stand against the Devourers? The kind that exist in a dimension where the laws of physics work differently, Yelena suggested. The kind that have been waiting for humanity to develop the technology to open a doorway between worlds. This is insane, Thorne muttered. They're gambling with the fate of the entire galaxy. No, Zexstar said quietly, studying the tactical display. They're not gambling. Look at the positioning. Look at the timing. Everything about this has been planned down to the smallest detail. The humans know exactly what they're doing. But do we? Krath asked. Are we ready for whatever comes through that gateway? We're about to find out, Zexstar replied. All ships, maintain position, but be ready to retreat on my command. And I want every sensor we have focused on the Prometheus, whatever happens. Next, we need to record everything. The Devourer fleet was now clearly visible on the long-range sensors. A dark stain spreading across the star field. They were moving more slowly now, but they were still approaching. 3,000 ships, each one a monument to destruction and death. Against them stood the Prometheus, alone in the darkness, surrounded by distortions in space itself. But maybe not alone. Maybe connected to something vast and powerful beyond. The barriers of reality. The countdown continued. 8 hours until contact. 8 hours until humanity's greatest gamble would either save the galaxy or destroy it. On the bridge of the Concordia, 12 species watched and waited, united in their fear and hope. They had come together to fight the Devourers, but now they realized they might be about to witness something much bigger than a battle. They might be about to witness the first contact between dimensions. Chapter 3. The gateway opens final or approached like a predator stalking its prey. Throughout the Allied fleet, creatures of 12 different species sat at their stations, eyes fixed on sensors that showed impossible readings. The Prometheus had become the center of a gravitational maelstrom that twisted space into shapes that hurt to look at. Admiral, Commander Yaxtel reported, his voice tight with strain. The Devourer fleet has stopped their approach. They're holding position at exactly 100,000 kilometers. From the Prometheus, Admiral Zexstar felt a chill run through his forearms. They're outside the blast radius of whatever the humans are planning. The Devourers know what's coming. How can they know? Captain Thorne asked. We don't even know what's coming. Maybe they've encountered this before, Dr. Veltari suggested, her compound eyes reflecting the chaotic light from the sensor displays. Maybe the humans aren't the first species to attempt something like this. The thought was deeply unsettling. If the Devourers had faced interdimensional weapons before, and they were still here, what did that say about humanity's chances? Admiral Yaxtel called out suddenly. I'm detecting massive energy spikes from the Prometheus, and Admiral. Space is literally tearing open around the ship. On the main display, reality itself seemed to be coming apart. The Prometheus sat at the center of a growing wound in space, a crack that revealed something beyond the normal universe. Colors that had no names poured through the gap, and geometric shapes that didn't belong in three-dimensional space twisted and danced in the void. By the Ancient Ones, General Krath whispered, his warrior's composure finally breaking. What have the humans done? They've opened a door, Ambassador Yelena said, her translucent form brightening with wonder and terror. A door to another reality. The crack continued to widen. Through it, they could see shapes moving in the darkness beyond, vast forms that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. And then, impossibly, something began to emerge. It was a ship, but not like any ship they had ever seen. It seemed to be made of solidified light, constantly shifting between states of matter. It was beautiful and terrible, familiar and utterly alien. And it was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the Prometheus. Contact, Yaxtel shouted. The Devourer fleet is moving. They're accelerating toward the gateway. The 3,000 ships of the Devourer fleet surged forward like a black tide. But they weren't moving in their usual consumption pattern. They were moving in attack formation, every weapon trained on the interdimensional gateway. They're trying to close it, Dr. Veltari realized. They're going to try to destroy the gateway before anything else can come through. But they were too late. The first interdimensional ship was already fully through, and more were following. Ships of impossible design, each one unique. Each one defying the laws of physics that govern normal space. Some looked like living creatures. Others, like mathematical equations given physical form. All of them pulsed with energy that made the sensors scream. Captain Webb, Admiral Zexstar broadcast urgently. The Devourers are closing fast. Are you ready for them, Admiral? Came Webb's calm reply. We've been ready for this for 70 years. Humanity has been preparing for this moment since we first learned that we weren't alone in the universe. 70 years? Thorne said in shock. How is that possible? Because first contact didn't happen when you think it did, Webb explained. It happened in 2157, when humanity's first deep space probe encountered something that shouldn't have existed. We found them, Admiral. The Guardians. The beings who created the barriers between dimensions to protect the universe from threats like the Devourers. The implications hit the bridge crew like a physical blow. If humanity had been in contact with interdimensional beings for 70 years, everything they thought they knew about human civilization was wrong. The Guardians have been waiting. Webb continued, waiting for the right moment, the right threat, the right opportunity to act. The Devourers have been consuming realities for millions of years, but they've never faced united resistance from multiple dimensions. Multiple dimensions? Yelena asked. The gateway doesn't just connect to one other reality, Webb explained. It connects to 17 different dimensions, each one home to species that have been fighting the Devourers for longer than our galaxy has existed. Today, we make our stand together. The battle began without warning. The Devourer fleet opened fire with weapons that could vaporize planets. But the interdimensional ships didn't even try to dodge. The energy beams simply passed through them as if they weren't there. They're phasing. Dr. Veltari breathed. The Guardian ships are shifting between dimensions to avoid the attacks. But the Guardians weren't just avoiding the fight. As the Devourer weapons passed harmlessly through them, the Guardian ships began to return fire. Their weapons were unlike anything anyone had ever seen, beams of pure possibility that rewrote reality wherever they struck. Devourer ships that had seemed indestructible simply ceased to exist, not destroyed but edited out of reality itself. Admiral, Yaxtel reported, the Prometheus is moving. It's advancing toward the Devourer fleet. Alone? Zexstar asked. No. It's surrounded by Guardian ships. They're forming an escort formation around it. The small fleet of human and Guardian vessels moved through the chaos of battle. Like a knife through silk, the Devourers threw everything they had at them: gravity bombs, quantum torpedoes, molecular disruptors, but nothing touched them. The Guardian ships existed in too many dimensions for conventional weapons to affect them. "This is impossible," Kraft said, watching the display. In amazement, the Devourers have never been defeated. They've consumed entire galactic civilizations. They've never faced the Guardians, Yulana pointed out. And the Guardians have been waiting for allies from our dimension, species that could open the gateway from this side. "But why humans?" Thorne asked. "Why not us? We have older civilizations, more advanced technology." "Because humans have something the rest of us lack," Dr. Veltari said, studying the battle with scientific fascination. "They have the ability to think in multiple dimensions. Their brains are wired differently. They can perceive possibilities that we can't even imagine." As if to prove her point, the Prometheus suddenly did something that made every sensor on the Allied fleet scream in protest. The ship split into multiple versions of itself, each one existing in a different dimension, but all connected through the gateway. The Devourers found themselves facing not one human ship, but 17 different versions of it, each one attacking from a different angle of reality. "Multi-dimensional warfare," Zexstar whispered. "They're fighting a battle that exists in 17 different realities simultaneously." The tide of battle turned in minutes. The Devourer fleet, which had seemed unstoppable, was being systematically eliminated by weapons and tactics that operated on principles they couldn't understand. Ships that had consumed planets were being erased from existence by beams of concentrated possibility. But the Devourers had one final desperate gambit. The surviving ships began to converge on the gateway itself, preparing to ram it with their combined mass. If they could destabilize the dimensional breach, they might be able to close it and trap the Guardians on the other side. Admiral Webb's voice crackled over the comm. "We need your fleet. The Devourers are trying to collapse the gateway." "What can we do?" Zexstar asked. "Our weapons can't even hurt them." "You don't need to hurt them," Webb replied. "You just need to get in there." "Way. The Guardians need 60 seconds to stabilize the gateway permanently. Can you buy us that time?" Zexstar looked around the bridge. 8,000 ships against the remnants of the Devourer fleet. Normal weapons against creatures that had consumed civilizations. It should have been suicide. "All ships," he broadcast to the Allied fleet. "This is Admiral Zexstar. Today we fight not just for our worlds, but for the right of life itself to exist in this universe. Today we stand with humanity and their allies against the darkness that would consume everything. Today we prove that some prey fights back." The Allied fleet surged forward. 8,000 ships from 12 different species united in desperate purpose. They couldn't hurt the Devourers, but they could slow them down. They threw themselves into the path of the enemy formation, absorbing devastating firepower. Buying precious seconds with their lives, ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Brave crews from a dozen worlds died in the cold vacuum of space. But they held the line. For 60 seconds, they held the line. And in those 60 seconds, the Guardians completed their work. The gateway stabilized, becoming a permanent bridge between dimensions. Guardian ships poured through in numbers that defied counting, each one bringing weapons and knowledge from realities where the fight against the Devourers had been going on for millions of years. The last of the Devourer fleet was destroyed in a cascade of reality-warping energy. The ancient enemy that had consumed 17 star systems was gone, erased from existence by beings who understood the true nature of the universe. In the aftermath, space around the gateway was filled with ships from two dimensions. The survivors of the Allied fleet found themselves surrounded by Guardian vessels of impossible beauty and complexity. And at the center of it all, the Prometheus hung motionless. Its mission complete, Admiral Webb's voice came over the comm. "The immediate threat is over, but this is just the beginning. The Guardians have been fighting the Devourers across multiple realities for eons. Now, finally, they have allies from our dimension." "What does that mean for us?" Zexstar asked. "It means the galaxy is safe," Webb replied. "But more than that, it means we're no longer alone. The barriers between dimensions are permanently open now. We have allies and friends in 17 different realities. The universe just got a lot bigger. Ambassador Yelana's form pulsed with joy. And humanity? You've been keeping the secret for 70 years. We've been preparing, Webb said. The Guardians needed us to develop the technology to open the gateway ourselves. They couldn't do it from their side. And they needed us to prove that our dimension was worth saving. Today, we proved it. As the Allied fleet began to regroup and tend to their wounded, the gateway continued to pulse with interdimensional energy. Through it, they could see wonders beyond imagination. Cities that existed in folded space, beings of pure energy, technologies that made their most advanced ships look like stone tools. What happens now? General Kraft asked. Now, Webb replied, we learn, we grow. We become part of something bigger than any single species or dimension. The Guardians have been waiting for us to be ready. Today, we prove that we are. The battle was over. The Devourers were defeated, and the universe had changed forever. But as the Allied fleet began to head home, carrying news of the victory to their home worlds, none of them could shake the feeling that they had just witnessed the end of one age and the beginning of another. The age of isolated civilizations was over. The age of multidimensional cooperation had begun. And at the center of it all, the gateway pulsed with the promise of infinite possibilities, a permanent bridge between realities that would reshape the fate of every living being in the universe. Chapter 4. The new dawn 6 months after the Battle of the Gateway. The galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have imagined. The Kepler station, once a simple meeting place for the Allied Defense Force, had been transformed into the Multidimensional Cooperation Center, a sprawling complex that existed partially in normal space and partially in 17 other dimensions. Admiral Zexstar stood on the observation deck, watching ships from multiple realities dock at stations that defy conventional physics. Guardian vessels that looked like living crystals shared space with human ships, while new hybrid designs combine the best of both dimensional technologies. Still hard to believe, isn't it? Captain Marcus Webb said, approaching from behind. The young human looked tired but satisfied, wearing the new uniform of the Interdimensional Alliance, an organization that had been formed in the weeks following the battle 6 months ago. We thought we were alone in the universe, Zexstar replied, his forearms gesturing at the impossible vista before them. Now we're part of a community that spans 17 different realities, 18, actually. Webb corrected with a smile. The Guardians made contact with another dimension last week. The architects, beings who exist as pure mathematical concepts. They're interested in helping us understand the deeper structures of reality. Zexstar shook his head in amazement, and to think we questioned why humanity sent just one ship. The Prometheus was never just one ship, Webb explained. It was a key, the key that unlocked the door between worlds. The Guardians had been waiting for someone to develop the technology to open the gateway from our side. They chose humanity because our brains are wired to think in multiple dimensions simultaneously. But why keep it secret for so long? Webb's expression grew serious. Because the galaxy wasn't ready. Think about it. If we had revealed the existence of the Guardians 70 years ago, what would have happened? Wars over access to interdimensional technology, panic about beings from other realities. The same conflicts that have plagued us for millennia, but on a multidimensional scale. So you waited until we faced extinction. We waited until we learned to work together. Webb corrected. The Devourer threat forced all our species to cooperate. It proved that we could put aside our differences when faced with a common enemy. That's when the Guardians knew we were ready. Through the observation deck's impossible windows, they could see the construction of the first interdimensional city, a habitat that existed in 3 dimensions simultaneously, allowing beings from different realities to interact safely. Ambassador Yelana was there, her translucent form shimmering as she communicated with Guardian entities that looked like living geometry. The ethereals are adapting well, Zexstar observed. Their natural psychic abilities translate surprisingly well across dimensional boundaries. Everyone's adapting, Webb said. The Botanians are working with plant-based life forms from the 7th dimension. The Corvin Empire is collaborating with insect-like mathematicians who exist as hive minds. Even General Krath has found kindred spirits among the warrior philosophers of the 12th dimension. And humanity, Webb smiled. Humanity is doing what we do best, making friends with everyone and learning as much as we can. We've got exchange programs running with 14 different dimensional neighbors. Human children are learning to perceive reality in ways that would have been impossible just a year ago. What about the Devourers? Zexstar asked. Are there more of them out there? The Guardians have been tracking them across multiple realities for millions of years. Webb explained. There are several other fleets, but they're isolated now. The permanent gateway has allowed the Guardians to coordinate their defenses across all dimensions. The Devourers can't use their hit-and-run tactics anymore. So we're safe. We're safer. Webb corrected. But more than that, we're part of something bigger. The multi-dimensional alliance isn't just about defense. It's about growth, exploration, and understanding. We're learning things about the universe that no single reality could have discovered alone. Dr. Veltari approached from the science section, her compound eyes bright with excitement. Marcus, Admiral, you need to see this. The architects have shared their dimensional mathematics with us. We're beginning to understand how reality itself is constructed. What do you mean? Zexstar asked. The universe isn't just 3 dimensions plus time, she explained. It's like a vast musical composition, with each dimension representing a different note. The architects exist as the sheet music itself. They are the underlying mathematical principles that hold everything together, and they're teaching us to read the music, Webb added, to understand how reality works at its most fundamental level. The implications are staggering, Dr. Veltari continued. We're not just exploring space anymore. We're exploring the very structure of existence. And with our new allies, we're capable of things that would have been pure fantasy just months ago. As if to demonstrate her point, a new ship appeared near the station, but it didn't arrive through normal space, or even through the gateway. It simply materialized, assembling itself from the quantum foam that underlies reality. The ship was a joint construction project between humans, Guardians, and architects, a vessel that existed as both matter and mathematics. The USS Synthesis. Webb said proudly, our first fully interdimensional exploration vessel. It can travel not just through space, but through the fundamental structures of reality itself. Where will it go? Zexstar asked. Everywhere, Webb replied. The architects have detected signatures of other multidimensional communities, clusters of realities that have learned to work together. We're not the only ones who have figured out how to open the doors between worlds. More allies, or more friends, Webb said. The universe is vast and full of wonders we're only beginning to understand. The Devourers represented the dark side of that vastness, the hunger that consumes without creating. But there's so much more out there. Beings of pure energy who sing the songs that create new stars. Collective intelligences that exist as living stories. Entire civilizations that have learned to exist as pure possibility. Admiral Zexstar felt a profound sense of wonder wash over him. 6 months ago, he had been preparing for what he thought might be the last battle of his species. Now he was standing at the threshold of infinite possibility. What about Earth? He asked. How are your people handling all this? Better than we expected. Webb said, humans have always been adaptable. The revelation that we've been in contact with interdimensional beings for 70 years was shocking. But people are focusing on the opportunities rather than the deception. There are already plans for interdimensional cities on a dozen human worlds, and the other species? The Regelians are building floating cities that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The warrior clans are establishing martial arts schools that teach combat techniques that work across dimensional boundaries. Everyone is finding their own way to contribute to the alliance through the observation decks. Windows, they could see the future taking shape, ships from 18 different dimensions working together, beings who had never imagined each other's existence learning to communicate and cooperate, technologies that seemed like magic just months ago becoming everyday tools. Admiral, Dr. Veltari said suddenly, I'm receiving a message from the synthesis. They're preparing for their first interdimensional voyage. They're going to explore the reality clusters the architects detected. When do they leave? Zexstar asked. In 1 hour. And Admiral, she paused. Her excitement barely contained. They're asking if you'd like to come along. As the representative of the Allied Defense Force, you'd be the official ambassador for this reality cluster. Zexstar looked at Webb. What do you think? I think, Webb said with a grin, that you're about to become the first admiral to command a fleet that spans multiple dimensions. The universe is waiting, Admiral. And this time, we're not going alone. # Epilogue. The Infinite Horizontal. Year after the Battle of the Gateway, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the USS Synthesis, watching as her ship prepared to enter its 13th different reality. The exploration mission had already made contact with 7 other multidimensional communities, each one offering new perspectives on the nature of existence itself. Captain, reported Lieutenant Commander Tkara, the ship's interdimensional navigator. We're approaching the dimensional membrane. The architects confirmed that this reality cluster shows signs of advanced mathematical civilization. Proceed with caution, Chen ordered. We don't know what we'll find on the other side. The ship passed through the membrane between realities, and Chen's breath caught in her throat. Before them lay a galaxy where the stars themselves were arranged in vast geometric patterns, living equations that pulsed with mathematical beauty. Planets orbited in perfect harmony, their movements tracing out theorems in the vacuum of space. It's beautiful, whispered Dr. Patel, the ship's xenobiologist. An entire galaxy devoted to the art of mathematics. Captain, Terra reported. I'm detecting artificial structures. Entire solar systems have been converted into computational matrices. This civilization has turned their galaxy into a vast thinking machine. Any signs of life? Yes, but not as we understand it. The life forms here exist as mathematical concepts that have achieved consciousness. They're trying to communicate with us through geometric poetry. Chen smiled. A year ago, she had been a simple starship captain, commanding a vessel that pushed the boundaries of human technology. Now she was an interdimensional explorer, making first contact with beings who existed as living mathematics. Open a channel, she ordered. Let's see what they have to say. The response came not as words, but as a complex mathematical equation that appeared directly in their minds. It was beautiful and terrifying, a proof that demonstrated the fundamental unity of all existence across all dimensions. They're welcoming us, Terra translated. They're saying that they've been waiting for someone to bridge the gap between mathematical reality and physical existence. They want to join the Alliance. Of course they do. Chen said with a laugh. Everyone wants to join the Alliance these days. It was true. In the past year, the multi-dimensional alliance had grown from 18 realities to over 200. Each new member brought unique perspectives and capabilities, expanding the collective knowledge of the alliance exponentially. Captain, Dr. Patel reported, I'm detecting something else. These mathematical beings, they're not just welcoming us, they're offering us something, a gift. What kind of gift? Knowledge. They want to share their understanding of the fundamental equations that govern reality. They're saying that with this knowledge, we could reshape the universe itself. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. The power to reshape reality was the kind of responsibility that could destroy civilizations, but it was also the kind of opportunity that could save them. Transmit a message back to Alliance Command, she ordered. Tell them we've found the equation masters, and they're offering to share the source code of the universe itself. Captain. As the message traveled back through the dimensional gateway to Alliance headquarters, Chen reflected on how far they had all come. The question that had started it all, why humans sent just one ship, now seemed almost quaint. They had sent one ship because one ship was all they needed. One ship to open the door to infinite possibilities. Now, with allies in hundreds of dimensions and knowledge that spanned the breadth of mathematical reality, why, the Alliance was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The Devourers had been just the beginning, the first test of what unified realities could accomplish when they worked together. Captain, Tkara said, The equation masters are asking if we'd like to see their greatest creation. They say it's something that will change our understanding of what it means to exist. Show us, Chen said. The view screen shifted to show something that defied description. It was a structure that existed in all dimensions simultaneously, a mathematical temple. That demonstrated the unity of all existence. It was beautiful and terrible, simple and infinitely complex. It's the proof, Terra whispered, the mathematical proof that demonstrates why life exists, why consciousness emerges from matter, why love and hope and courage are fundamental forces of the universe. Chen stared at the impossible structure, feeling tears run down her cheeks. A year ago, she had been fighting for the survival of her species. Now she was looking at mathematical proof that life itself was not an accident, but a fundamental feature of reality. Signal Alliance Command, she ordered. Tell them we're bringing home the answer to the ultimate question. Which question is that, Captain? Why we exist, Chen said softly. Why any of us exist, and why? In a universe full of darkness and destruction, hope always finds a way to survive. The USS Synthesis continued on its journey through the mathematical galaxy, carrying the greatest discovery in the history of any reality, the proof that life, consciousness, and hope were not accidents, but fundamental features of existence itself. Behind them, the dimensional gateway continued to pulse with infinite possibility, a permanent bridge between realities that would ensure that no civilization would ever have to face the darkness alone again. And in the depths of space, other ships from other realities were making their own discoveries, their own contacts, their own contributions to the ever-growing alliance of civilizations that had learned the greatest lesson of all. Some prey fights back, and when it does, the universe changes forever.